morning, everybody. Welcome to the late 2020 version of the Picture Book In service. For those of you that I haven't met before, my name is Sherry Boudry. I'm a youth outreach technician. This is our first time trying this format, this electronic format. So we're asking you to bear with us. We're filming this so that in addition to everybody who's watching live today, other people can come on and watch it in the future. So bear with us if we have pauses and glitches. I'm making sure I'm reading my technical notes first. Keep yourself muted, but if you have any questions, you can ask them via chat, and we have somebody who will flag me that we have a question, and we'll fit them in or get back to you as quick as possible. The format today is like a regular Picture Book In service. If you've ever attended in person, I'm going to do some book talking. Karen's going to do some connected activities. Then we'll take a break so you'll have a chance to get up. If you're at home in your pajamas, I was going to wear mine today, but they, thought perhaps I should try to be a little more professional. But you relax and enjoy, and we'll take scheduled breaks, but you can move however you need to. If you are getting a certificate for a CEU, those will be emailed within a few days. And in your email links, the email that came to give you the link to this Zoom presentation, you should also have links for how-to videos, which include how to get a library card, how to use our downloadables. Those are all accessible through those links. We also have email links that you can print today's book list, and a fabulous new addition, these book notes. It'll show you the cover of the book, and it leaves a space for you to write your notes, anything that you want to remind yourself about how to use it or how it's connected. There are also some QR codes, these little black and white thingies on the book notes pages. If you print these out and you use these by scanning them with your phone, it will take you directly to catalog connections, other things by that author. So those are all links that came in your email. You can print that stuff out. You can look at it at your leisure. I'm going to go pretty fast today, so you may not have time to make all the notes you want. But again, please feel free to ask questions through the chat, and we'll get to them as quickly as we can. Did I say? Yep, I said the thing about keep yourself muted. I think we got all those. So the general info is, today is really a mix of new and old. We have done this program many times before, so in a way it feels familiar and old to us, but we're doing it in a completely new format, so that may be a very different thing. We have a lot of new books, but there were fewer books published this year. Many were held back. And when we were planning this event, as I sometimes do, I felt like there's just not enough new things. I don't feel excited about anything. And then, of course, I started to look and research. And now I have way too many, as usual. So we have a lot of new books, but I have mixed them in with a lot of old favorites. I was thinking about this the other night. There was a debate between the vice presidential candidates, or no, it was when the town hall was on. Biden was on one channel, Trump was on another channel, and somebody commented that Biden reminded them of Mr. Rogers. And I think that was supposed to be a put down, but the more I thought about it, I thought how happy it made me just thinking about Mr. Rogers. And then people started putting on Facebook and Twitter different clips of Mr. Rogers. And the more I watched him, the more overwhelmed I was at how that guy got it just right. And he got it just right because he was basic, yes, but gentle, kid-centered. And I feel like in this time when everything is so crazy and new and unprecedented, we don't just need comfort because it makes us feel good, but we need the comfort of books and activities and basic, simple principles like Mr. Rogers used, because they're just so good. He was right on target. So some of my favorite authors have new books. We're going to feature those today, but we're also going to talk about some of their older titles. We're going to talk about simple, inexpensive, socially distanced extension activities. We know that some people who are watching this don't have kids with them in a daycare center. Some teachers that are watching this may not be in the classroom with their kid. Some have kids that are signing on virtually from different places. So we want activities that engage kids wherever they are, not just entertain them. We don't just want an activity for the sake of saying it's fall, so here's a pumpkin. We want that to be an activity that engages the kids and takes them on the journey that the book started. And We want to remember that the joy of books do all the things that we feel like we need now. They help us, heal us, comfort us, challenge us, entertain us, engage us, they educate us, they make us laugh, and they make us cry, and they make us think. And they're all here at the library for free. So don't forget that every book I'm talking about today is currently in our collection. And unlike the usual picture book in service where you can come up and get them, you can, of course, go online or call us to reserve them. We do have a few books today that are so brand new to the system that I don't think they are on the catalog yet. I will let you know which ones those are so that you can keep an eye out for them because they'll be there soon. So let's get rolling. I'm going to follow pretty much, if you have the book list in front of you, the order that they're in, but of course I had to stick a whole lot of new things in there. I want to mention really quick some board books for our youngest favorites or our youngest friends. This is one of my new favorites, Up Cat and Down Cat. You can tell already it's an opposite book, but the opposites are so clear and so graphic and they jump out at you. There's also some funny, silly things happening in there. In the past, I think we talked about You Are Light, which I'm going to hold this up behind me and hope you can see, is the book that has all these amazing gels in it. So as you talk about the colors, you're seeing them through the light. There is a new one called My Favorite Color. Same kind of thing. And these gels change as you turn the page to mix in with the color that you're talking about. So first, the blue, yellow is my favorite color, blue. Oh, wait a minute, what about the sunset sky? Oh, yeah, purple's my favorite color. As action books or books that give kids something to do. My favorite new color book is the Cookie Book of Colors. Put it as close to you as you can because I hope you can see it. It is so simple in that it only gives you one color per page, but the beauty of the cookies that are next to it, they make you want to eat, they make you think about that color. They are such gorgeous hues of the same basic color, and it makes me want to make cookies with kids. So for me, this book is a perfect jumping off for every color activity, color mixing, cooking, cookie decoration. You could do so many things with this beautiful little book. My absolute favorite board book this year is Anti-Racist Baby. Now, if you don't know Anti-Racist Baby, he's bred, not born. Anti-Racist Baby is raised to make society transform. This is a board book that rhymes about not just not being racist, but being anti-racist, which means you actively work to make sure that everyone understands that they have equal value and they will be treated equally. And even the baby knows that. They shout, there's nothing wrong with the people. And even though all races are not treated the same, we are all human, Anti-Racist Baby can proclaim. This is a fantastic book, I think, to read with a variety of age kids. Even if you think that kids are not aware of all that's going on in the society around us, I guarantee you that they are. They overhear conversations, they see snippets of TV, and we need to be reading and talking to them about what's happening in our world. So based on that, I want to talk about a couple other activist social justice books. One of my absolute favorites is called Not My Idea. This is an older book. It's a book about whiteness. It is written by Anastasia Higginbotham, and she does this amazing collage art in her books that, first of all, is a wonderful art technique that you can use, but secondly, gives kids a place to talk about complicated things. It says, when grown-ups try to hide scary things from kids, Mom says, oh no, not again. And the kid says, what? Mom, what? What again? Grown-ups are usually hiding it because they're scared too. Understand? And the kid's thinking, no, I don't understand. Grown-up says, our family is kind to everyone. We don't see color. And let's remember, that's absolutely untrue. You may not judge people on color in your home, but it's pretty clear when people are different skin colors or have different hair or wear different kinds of clothing. So remember, you gotta be actively anti-racist. Deep down, we all know color matters, says the kid. Skin color makes a difference in how the world sees you and in how you see the world. It makes a difference how much trouble seems to find you or how trouble lets you be. And it goes on to talk about why is that? Why does skin color affect things? Why do people judge people on their skin tone? What can you do about it? What can kids do to understand and to change that? And when you think about kids not only trying to make sense of what's happening around them, but that they are the citizens of tomorrow, we have to do more than just say we don't see color. We have to teach kids how to understand what prejudice is if we want them to turn it around. One of the most beautiful books, and this is a brand new one that's not on your list, is All Because You Matter. One of the things that research is showing us is that Black boys in school get disciplined more. They are more often seen as troublesome. Their language is corrected in a much more frequent way. And this is a book that celebrates not just what it is to be a Black boy, although that's very important, but kids in general. Says they say that matter is all things that make up the universe, energy, stars, space. And if that's the case, then you, dear child, matter. So it takes that idea of matter, all because you matter, the physical matter that we are because we're here, and then the fact that you matter because you're important. The art is beautiful. The poetic words take you through a story of one little boy, but keeps reflecting back the beauty of all the children in our lives, in our classrooms. It says, what happens the time you see a big letter, bold, red on the page? He hasn't done well in his homework. And you will question if you and your work and your effort matter. Or the time when your pop-pop turns on the news and you see people everywhere take a breath, take a stand, take a knee, talking about troubles. And you hear Pop-Pop's whispered prayers as another name is called, Trayvon, Tamir, Philando, all Black boys who were killed. And you wonder if they or you will ever matter. But did you know that you do? Did you know that you were born from queens and chiefs and legends? Did you know that you are the earth, that strength, power, and beauty lie within you? When you read those words to a kid, I hope you get the same shivers that I do. I absolutely love this book. And it pairs beautifully with I Am Every Good Thing. Same kind of thing, gives a chance for young boys, especially young Black boys, to feel that all that energy and that wildness and that fire are good things. I am a nonstop ball of energy, powerful and full of light. I am a go-getter, a difference maker, a leader. Remember that all those things that may drive you crazy about a child are going to stand them in good stead the rest of their life when that energy propels them forward. Shows them skateboarding and building snowballs and discovering science. And it says, I am a gentleman and a scholar. I am kind and polite, like yes, ma'am, and yes, sir. I help my grandmother cross the street. And I say, bless you, when a stranger has to sneeze. So it gives kids, again, Black boys especially, a way to see themselves as amazing, not problems. And we want all our kids to feel that way. And we want all our kids to see themselves and kids in the universe in the books that we read with them. I want to mention really quickly the Undefeated. This book is actually from 2019. So it's a little bit old, but it was the Newbery winner last year. And Karen used to create this she created this program so that people could vote for the Caldecott, which is the best picture book for kids of the year. You can see it has both a medal it was a Caldecott medal winner, and it was a Newbery Best Words in a Kids Book honor book. So this is one fantastic book by the most amazing artist named Kadir Nelson, who again the author Kwame Alexander has written in a beautiful poetic form, but you see, I'm looking for a particular page. You see all kinds of African-American scientists and musicians and sports figures and sculptors that made a difference. They are the undefeated along with the regular citizens of the world. A is for Activists is a fantastic book when you're talking to kids about equality and about diversity and about how everybody matters. This is a book that gives kids ideas of what they can do to make a difference. So for every letter, you will see H is for healthy food, which is a human right. Honeydew, jicama, nature's delight. Hummus, hot dogs, Havarti cheese, hot dogs. Yes, healthy hot dogs. And pizza, please. So even something as simple as the food they eat, you can talk about how many people don't have enough to eat, and what you can do maybe is create a food drive with your kid or help out at a food bank. In the times of the pandemic, we're limited in some of the activities we can do one-on-one and face-to-face, but this book has a lot of ideas for things that could happen in the classroom or individually. When you get to V, it talks about voting, and every kid you work with could remind their grown-ups to vote. That's a simple way to be an activist and make a difference in your world. Last year, I attended the American Library Association National Conference where I met Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor. She was a beautiful, amazing speaker. She has created not only books about her life, but this is her newest, Just Ask. And this is a book that talks to kids about when you see something that you don't understand, or you meet somebody that looks different or behaves differently, what can you do? And her intention is that kids just ask. This is Raphael, for instance. He has asthma, which means sometimes I have trouble breathing. When that happens, I take a break and I use an inhaler with medicine to make my breathing easier. Quiet time helps me slow down and catch my breath. My inhaler is like a tool to help my body. Do you use any tools to help your body? So for each kid that we meet, we ask them about something that we see in the way they look or in their behavior or in tools that they use. They explain it, and then they give kids a way to think about their own experience. This is Madison, and she's blind and has a guide dog, Lucky. And it talks about how her other senses help her. She has great hearing, and she uses her sense of touch. And so it asks the kids, how do you use your senses? You could talk about each one of these kids on different days, ask the question of your kids, and I think you could create a lot of conversation around that because they'll tell you about everybody they know who has a tool. When we talk about great books for kids, and in this section particularly where we're talking about diversity and inclusivity, kids need to see themselves in books. Sometimes when we do this in-service, I spend a lot of time giving you terrible statistics about what will happen if kids don't read, and if we don't read to people, and how it affects their lives so horrible. But we're going old school today, which is we're going to have hope and be joyful and talk about if we give kids books where they see themselves and they meet people who maybe are nothing like them, they begin to have a familiarity with all the different kinds of people they're going to meet throughout their lives. This is The Prince and the Knight. This is a brand new book. It is not on your list because I took it before it was processed to go on the shelf. The Prince and the Knight, I thought was going to be a book because the knight is all disguised, where the prince eventually finds out that the knight who helps him slay the dragon is a beautiful princess. But in fact, this prince is not looking for a beautiful princess. This prince has told his parents he's interested in something else. So when he meets the knight who helped him slay the dragon, and it is in fact a man, he's never been happier or more in love. And when they come back and tell the kingdom they've saved them, everybody lives happily ever after. The other thing that books can do, another thing that books can do for kids, besides showing them themselves or people they know or people they work with or people in their families, is it helps them understand difficult things. My coworkers always make fun of me when I bring the books about death. But I think if you work with kids, sooner or later, you are going to have kids who lose a beloved pet or a grandparent or someone in their family, or they are coping with family stresses. We talked about Anastasia Higginbotham before in her incredible book about racism. This one is called Death is Stupid. It's one of my favorites, not only because it helps kids talk about and think about death and understand it, but it is stupid. And in my family, stupid is a bad word, probably is not a word you accept in your classroom. But if you want to talk about something that's really stupid, a bad thing that makes you feel really bad, that would be death. And this book walks kids through all the different feelings and all the different ways that you might respond, and the things that grown-ups try to tell you, like, your grandma is just sleeping, when the kid knows she isn't sleeping, she's died. It talks about the courage to go on living and to accept that death cannot be changed. And it gives kids an honest way to talk about their feelings. It goes beautifully with An Ordinary Day. I don't think this book is on your list either, so you might want to add it. An Ordinary Day, I found this book astonishing. It was an ordinary day in the neighborhood, and it talks about some things. Across the street, there were two houses that sat unusually quiet, and at almost the same time, a car pulled up to each. And you see that at each house, and notice the subtlety of the art here, which I think increases kids' interest because they have to look a little bit more to see what's going on. So a doctor clearly gets out of each car and goes into each house. They go to the front doors, they knock, they come in, and in one house, the doctor is there for the dog who is very, very sick. And in the other house, the doctor is there because a baby is about to come. And what ends up happening on this very ordinary day on this street in these two houses is one family is saying goodbye and another family is saying hello to a new member. And it gives such a beautiful vision for kids of this circle of life, of how, yes, some lives end, but some lives begin, and that there is a way to have love through all those things. Home in the Woods is definitely on your list, and this is an amazing book about a family in the Depression. So like the 1930s, here they all are, and they look almost like, the way this book is drawn, they look almost like those families in the Depression, those photographs of hard-scrabbled families. It's based on a true story of the author's family. When her grandfather died suddenly, her grandmother was left with 8 kids. They had no money, they had nowhere to live. They eventually moved to a horrible shack in the woods. And while most of the family was overwhelmed with how awful it was, they got to work. They managed to put together a household from things they found. They started to look all around in the forest for things that they could eat. So everything from berries to deer to greens, and they put those things away. It goes through all of the seasons that this family is facing, and each time a new season is introduced, you realize things are getting a little bit better, although you also see that it's still a very difficult struggle. And I think about how many kids we have now who don't have enough food at home, who maybe don't have a stable home life, who don't always have the best place to live. And again, when you see struggle in a book that you have in your family, it can give kids a lot of hope and give them a sense that they can overcome things. This most beautiful book is called This Way, Charlie. I am a big fan of these animal videos of unusual animal friendships. This is based on one such real animal friendship. And clearly it takes place at the Open Bud Ranch, which is a place where animals who've been hurt or are sick go to get better. And this is Jack the goat. He likes to have space to himself, but Charlie has arrived and Charlie can't see. So Charlie doesn't know when he's in Jack's space. And at first, that's a terrible problem. And they do not get along well. But soon Jack starts to realize that Charlie has a lot of different troubles. For instance, he can't see, so he ends up going round and round in circles and can't find his way back to the barn. And eventually, Jack starts to help Charlie figure things out. He leads him to grass. He leads him back into the barn. One day, they're out in the field doing their usual walk, graze, sunbath, return routine, and a storm blows up. Charlie finds his way back into the barn with Jack's help, but Jack is too afraid to go inside because he has to keep distance for himself. So Charlie comes out and stands over Jack in the rain to protect him. It is such an amazing, simple story about these animals and about how, even though it was Jack who reached out to help Charlie in the first place, Charlie ends up being just as good a friend to Jack. And eventually, when Charlie is in big trouble, Jack goes to get help to save him, and he has to go into the barn and encourage the other animals to come help him because Charlie is caught in a tree in a storm. And when they both overcome so many odds, their friendship makes them stronger together. I love this book so much. My other favorite friendship book is Evelyn Del Rey is Moving Away. And I think you know that's making her friend very sad. These little girls live across the street Their rooms look like each other. They do things together. They go back and forth between each one's house, and they know each one's family, and their friendship is an all-encompassing sort of thing. They are mostly the same, just like their apartments, but not after today, because Evelyn Del Rey is moving away. And it goes through that whole last day of Evelyn's family is packing up and cleaning up and getting ready to go. And they're thinking about how different it will be, that their homes will not be the same. They give each other the stickers they found before they go. And if you ever had the friend move away or been the friend that moves away, you know the sadness that that brings. And both of them feel a little heartbroken. But they know they'll always be their first mejor amiga, which means their numero uno best friends. And it says in the last page, the one I will always know by heart. And now you see that the girl has grown up and Evelyn Del Rey is still her friend. They're exchanging cards and letters. Kind of dates that book, but beautiful friendship book. I want to mention really quickly a new format of books that I don't think we talked about before. This is one of them. This is I Believe I Can. We'll talk about the book in a minute, but the format, it's called a Vox book. You'll see that it has its own sticker here. When I open it up, it has this little control pad. You turn these books on, and then you press play, and they will be read to you or the child as they turn the pages. So you can hear the book being read as you look at the pages. So every kid, we have a ton of new Vox books. You can look them up in the catalog under Vox if you want those, or you will see when you look at a particular title that it says Vox, and you can request that version. The beauty of it is kids can take their time. They can hear the words as they're seeing the words. So particularly if you have beginning readers, this is great practice for them. I Believe I Can is all about exactly what it says. It is sort of a partner too. You'll notice it's by Grace Byers. This book we have talked about before, I Am Enough. These are wonderful, incredibly diverse books in terms of the kids they portray, all about self-esteem and strength and confidence. And those are things that grown-ups need these days. They're definitely things that kids need. So I want to mention those. Now, when Karen talks in a little bit, she's going to tell you some great activities. And some of them are connected to this beautiful book, I Promise, which is written by, anybody guess? That's right, the king himself, LeBron James. LeBron James. LeBron James. We're hearing it from the Peanut Gallery. LeBron, who is not only a fantastic basketball player, maybe the best ever, he is incredibly devoted to education. He has created a school in his hometown of Akron that is flourishing and giving kids incredible opportunities that they would not otherwise have had. And he is reaching out to more kids, and you see them all there in their different skin tones and heights and shapes and weights. And it says, I promise to work hard and do what's right to be a leader in this game of life. And it goes through on each page, there is a promise that kids make. This book, and one I'm going to talk about in a minute, this is one of the books I would recommend that everybody make the effort to purchase. I think if you talk about these promises in your classroom, you make them the rules of your classroom, you repeat the promises that you make to each other and to yourself. It's everything from following the rules to being open to new things, to ask for help when you need it, to respect your elders and peers the same, to be courageous, to be free, to strive for greatness. All of the incredible qualities that we want for kids are embodied in this book. And when they promise to achieve those things and to do those things, it makes for a beautiful way to communicate with each other all the things that you want your kids to know. So that's I Promise. Karen's going to give you a few tips about that. We want to partner that with The World Needs More Purple People. Now, this is, of course, not actually purple people, but this is a little girl who's going through her day. From her grandmother to her grandfather, she finds out what being a purple person is all about. And when you get to the end, you find out that purple people ask really great questions, laugh a lot, use your voice all the time, are really hard workers, and purple people are totally you. So I won't show you every page of the book, but we have some ideas about this book. And we think everybody should be more of a purple person. Where's my purple? There it is today. So we all put on our purple today because we are all purple people here at the Picture Book in Service, because we ask a lot of questions. We want to laugh. We want to always be ourselves and to use our voices. And those are wonderful things to teach your kids. I'm getting the signal that we're about to wrap up this segment, but I need to mention quickly Be You by Peter H. Reynolds. We have talked about his books before, The Word Collector, I Am Peace, I Am Human, I Am Yoga. All of the Peter Reynolds books celebrate kids in so many beautiful ways and encourage them to have hope, have joy, have confidence in themselves. I Am Yoga is a very specific book where it talks about the benefits of yoga for kids, and we have some ideas for you there. I want to also mention Nothing in Common in this section. This is about a boy and girl who have nothing in common. They live across the street, they have different interests, they don't look the same, they don't do the same things, they have nothing in common except they watch this old man and his dog. And they both realize that something's different when the dog is lost. So they decide to join together to find the dog. And in fact, when they do, they bring that dog back to the man. And I don't know how well you can see the illustrations in this book. It is illustrated by Corinna, I think her name is Luyken, L-U-Y-K-E-N. The most beautiful art. I could spend hours just looking at the book. But the message of people may not have anything in common. They may not like each other. They don't want to sit together. They don't like it when, you know, they touch their pencil. But sometimes when you are paired with somebody you have nothing in common with, together you can make amazing, wonderful things happen. Check out every book that is illustrated by this artist. I have here Adrian Simcox does not have a horse, which is all about lying. But the art, again, you could spend hours and hours with this. So I'm going to turn this over to my good friend and fearless leader, Karen Moore. She's going to give you some extension activity ideas for these books, and then we'll have a break, and we'll be back to talk about more books.
Good morning, everybody. And as Sherry said, it's the first time we've used this format, and it's a little different, but we are excited to do it for you. I'm always excited and motivated when Sherry read books, and she reads to me sometimes weekly, sometimes it's a while, but I'm always inspired and I always come up with ideas to use. And as talking about this program, we thought we should keep it simple and just give you guys some things that are easily done. And since we're all about purple, I have my purple on today. I have some purple things here. And we thought about one thing to do was to use simple shaving cream and a bag. And what I'm going to do is put the color blue, mix a little blue and a little red here. And what I do with the kids is then I put the shaving cream in, but I kind of hide the color in there. So as they're mixing it, they don't know what color they're going to get. And when they mix blue and red together, as you guys know, it's purple. So that's purple for purple people. There are some tie-ins. I thought we could just do a whole array of purple things. You could take out purple crayons. You could take out, there's some purple chiclets, purple. I just got a lot of purple things that I pulled out from the back. Give them some clear paper and they will do the rest. And then they can become purple people. Sherry and I talked about in your classroom, giving them ideas on how to earn purple rewards, you know, when they do a good deed. I'm a good listener, I follow directions, or stuff like, I help my friend. That makes you a purple person. So that is for purple people. There's lots to do, and she talked about LeBron James, I Promise. About 2 weeks ago, she gave me the book, and I have a little one at home, and we have been doing affirmations since she was 3, ever since she could talk. And when I read LeBron James' book to her, she's like, those are affirmations. I'm like, that's right. So she says, I promise I'm going to wake up tomorrow and be speedy. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna need you to write that down. She wrote it down, and sure enough, she wasn't speedy and she didn't wake up on time, but she remembered that she had promised that. So that was really cute. Sherry really motivate her to want to be a better person, also myself. So she also talked about yoga and exercising. And this is a this is an exercise sheet. And what it's called is roll your task, and it's a brain break. And what you do, you roll your dice. So that landed on 1. And number 1 was 20 jumping jacks. 20 jumping jacks is not easy for me, but for a 7, 5, 4-year-old, they knock those out. And what you guys know, and I do, exercise make you feel good. No matter how much you accomplish, it's a good feeling. Those are 3 items that tie in with the books. Anything that you want, you can call the library or contact us, give us a message on the Zoom. And any of these things that you want, I have the rights to duplicate these. I can send them to you via email. And we're going to take a short break.
We'll be back at
10
10.
minutes. I'll see you guys back at 10 o'clock.
Hi, friends. So the next segment of books that I want to talk about, and often I feel like we neglect these at the picture book in service. We favor a lot of fiction books and we kind of forget about the nonfiction, but there is no better time to delve into nonfiction than the fall because everything is happening outside. We can see it, we can collect it, we can walk in it. Karen's going to talk to you more about that, but I want to talk about some fantastic nonfiction books. This is by an author, Henry Cole. It's called Nesting. And you can see that it's mostly very simple pencil drawings. And the only bit of color is in the sky and in the nest where we see the egg eventually. So this is a picture of the tree when the nest is built. This is a picture of mom and dad bringing the things to build the nest. We eventually see that there are eggs in the nest. Some drama happens once the babies are here and a snake tries to get them. If you look at this book, you will spend so much time just admiring the drawings. Because when you realize that that pencil makes the dark, the light, the thick, the thin, and you realize all the incredible things that you can do with this simple pencil, I hope that it starts a pencil revolution. We are also in the habit of giving kids every single thing to color with in the world and giving them pictures or ideas of things that they should color with those bright colors. But a pencil and a piece of paper is sheer magic. When you talk about the Mr. Rogers element of classic and amazing, that's exactly it. You can give kids pencil and paper, pencils that are thick, that are thin, that are small. You put the paper on the table, tape the paper under the table, let them lay on the floor and draw on it that way. Give them different surfaces to shade with the pencil and feel what that texture, see what that texture not only feels like when you touch it, but what it looks like when it comes to on the paper. It is the simplest materials, and yet you can create the most amazing and beautiful things with it. Henry Cole came out with 2 amazing books this year. He has others, feel free to look them up, but this is One Little Bag. And again, same kind of thing where it's pencil line drawing. The only thing we see in color is this small brown paper bag, which begins as a tree. And it is also brown in the initial picture. Second picture, we see that tree being cut down, loaded onto a truck, taken away to the paper mill, ground up into sawdust, combined and cooked, pressed into sheets of paper. And again, notice that there's only the slightest hint of brown. Everything else is done with the pencil. And from that giant sheet of paper bags are produced and sent out into the world. And that's when the book begins. Because the little boy goes to the store one day and gets something in that paper bag. The rest of the book once he gets the bag, that's when the book actually begins. So you have a lot of things happen. This is a wordless book. I can't say enough good things about wordless books because wordless books lets not only you tell the story, but kids participate by talking about what they see in the story, what's happening, what they think everybody's feeling, what they think is coming next. Create conversation around your story. You don't just have to march through the book and then, ask, what did you think or did you like it? Let the kids talk throughout the book about what's happening in the story. Because on pages like this, there are so many things happening. While it seems very simple, some kids may not know that you pack a lunch in a brown paper bag and take it to school. If you only buy your lunch at school or you go home before it's lunchtime, this whole idea is brand new to kids. And right there, you could stop and everybody pack up their lunch or their snack. Or if you're seeing kids virtually, have them bring their snack in a brown paper bag and talk about it. At night, when he gets scared, that paper bag shields the light so that he can sleep. And when they camp out or fix the car or play outside, the bag is in each one of these pictures with a different use. And again, some of your kids may have no idea what these things are, because here's a whole picture of kids congregating together and playing instruments. And we don't do that much anymore. So there's the bag who's gone off to college with the boy. And that bag gets used again and again and again. A pretty girl notices the bag. Before long, the bag is shared. You'll notice 2 hearts between the boy and the girl. And when the baby comes along, it's part of the mobile, and there are 3 hearts. That baby begins to grow up. The little boy's daddy comes to visit. He's with his grandson. They get popcorn out of that bag. And now Grandpa's heart is on the bag as well. Because all the people that it has served and loved. And as Grandpa ages, when he's gone, the family makes a plan to keep the bag with him forever when they plant a tree in it. This story could take you months to tell. Months for your kids to look at and talk about. And all the things that you can do with that bag, I could spend all day on. But I would also like to remind you, in the back of this book, there is the author's note. When authors include things in their book, make sure you check them out, because it wasn't until I read the author's note that I found out this really happened to him. On his very first Earth Day, he had packed a lunch in a brown paper bag. And when all the talk was about saving the earth and not making as much trash, he decided to reuse his paper bag and eventually took it to lunch every single day for the rest of his school life. He had to tape it and he had to patch it up, but it went through with him. So think of the ideas that connect this book, not only to kids and family and the bag and school and multiple uses, but the whole idea of Earth Day and ecology and environment. They are beautiful books with incredible pencil drawings. Can't say enough about those. In case you haven't noticed, those are some of my favorites. Also on your list, in that little nonfiction section, Your Place in the Universe. This might appeal more to older kids because it is lots and lots and lots of facts about the earth. There is a story that weaves through it for our younger audiences, and maybe you don't have to talk about every detail, but it gives ideas from everything about the light, to the water, to the spinning of the earth, to its size, how people know about those things, the distance between things in space and in the sky. So if you're wondering about your place in the universe, it's a beautiful book of science. This one creeped me out a little bit, but it creeped me out because it's pretty amazing. This is the honeybee. And if you don't want that bee that close to you, I totally understand. Your kids might scream and recoil, but it's a useful way to find out things about nature and what these bees are doing and why they're important. And if you don't know, there's a honeybee crisis because honeybees are dying off, and the more honeybees that die off, the less plants they can pollinate. So that affects humans because we have fewer fruits and vegetables. So again, even though it's got some intense close-up pictures, kids love that kind of stuff and are interested in it. And it gives you a chance to talk about something that they're going to see all around them in a process. Now, again, you notice that there are a lot of words. You're going to have to judge in your classroom. Do you want to read everything and go slowly so kids can understand the concepts? Or do you want to use the pictures and kind of tell your own story about what honeybees are doing? The art is incredible, especially for nonfiction book. This is The Keeper of Wild Words. I have to practice that every time I say it. Talks about everything that this little girl and her grandma are seeing outside, from flowers, these are violets and poppies, to animals, the minnows and the beaver, to things in the sky, these are starlings. And the lyricism of the words as this little girl and her grandma explore nature, come out and give kids that lush vocabulary. We talk about picture books have 700 times more words for kids to learn, hear, and be exposed to than the average TV show. This particular book says that it was inspired by an article that the author read that astounded them. The Oxford Junior Dictionary removed over 100 natural words from its pages. They no longer felt these words had relevance for today's children. And those nature words were replaced by words like MP3 player, vandalism, voicemail, conflict. Now, I'm not saying kids shouldn't learn about those words, but think about all the amazing, beautiful words, not only that name things in nature, but describe them. The richness of the vocabulary in this book may be more words than kids hear on an average in a week or a month. So when you are looking at books, sometimes they are wordless because you want to talk about what's happening. And sometimes they are language rich to give kids the experience of hearing all the incredible words that they can begin to learn. My mom used to say, oh, those kids don't know what you're talking about. Well, they might not when we start, but if they've heard the words, or the words are explained, or they're connected to something in nature that they can see and think about, that's how language is learned. Beautiful book called Birdsong. This is a fiction book, but based on a true story again, because I read the author notes. And it's about a little girl. It goes through each season of the year. And this little girl has moved to a new house. She's kind of lonely. She ends up meeting the neighbor, whose name I believe is Agnes. And at first she just watches Agnes, but then she gets brave enough to go over and talk to her. And soon she and Agnes are great friends. And Agnes starts to teach the little girl all about the flowers and the plants and the native landscape that she is seeing. Agnes is an artist, and the little girl begins to experiment with her own art that echoes Agnes. And also, again, the rich words that they use to talk about their experience. You can see that these are not super colorful pages, but again, sometimes I think this muted palette is way more intriguing to kids because it gives them some time to really look and think about what's happening instead of having all this bright stuff coming at them. This particular little girl and Agnes and her mom are also Cree Indians. You rarely will find a book, a picture book about Native Americans that treat their characters as just characters that you would see in any book. So while that element is here and there are some Cree words used and Cree philosophy reflected on, it's woven into the story. So it's a great story for anyone to learn. And as Agnes ages and is not able to get outside as the spring comes around, then the little girl begins to take the nature into Agnes through her drawing. When you look at the drawings on the wall and you see that they're not really complicated, they're very simple, again, gives you a chance to extend this not only into Native American connections or nature connections, but art connections, things that kids can do with very simple materials. The last nonfiction book that I want to talk about is Hike. This is another wordless book, and I love it when weird things are happening. You have to turn the book to read the words, but it's still supposed to go that way because that's the way we're going up the mountain. Karen and I had a discussion about whether the main character in this book was a girl or a boy, and we really liked the fact that we couldn't decide. So this kid wakes up one day, and you can see in the kids' room there's all kinds of hiking paraphernalia. This kid and dad are getting ready, we assume it's dad, are going on a trip. They're going on a hike. They're going out into the woods. Again, there's almost no words in this book. So you tell the story or you ask the kids what are happening. But the thing that I find with books like this is while I'm talking about what's obvious on the page, that they're walking on the path, some kid will say, hey, did you notice there's a bird's nest with eggs in it? And I'll have to say, no, never check that out. And look, over here is the fox, who I believe has that bird and that nest in its sight. So I love it when kids see things in a picture or that they think are happening in the story or small little bits on the page that I don't because I'm so busy focusing on the big idea. Goes through the whole book. They have all kinds of experience. They see all kinds of amazing things. They hike, they climb. And the whole purpose of the trip is to plant this tree that they brought along. And of course, you know, that makes me think about tree planting day and Arbor Day and how you could have the kids plant trees at home or in a park, or you could go clean up the trees that are nearby. You could help rake leaves. So many things could happen with this. And they take pictures of everything they're doing, just like you could, and document what you're doing. They drive back to the city. It's now late at night. The kids will notice that passage of time. And eventually they have all the photos of everything that they did to look at. Not on their phone, mind you, but in a photo album. Could blow your kids' minds if you actually print some pictures and look at them. So love, love, love Ike. I guess technically this is a bit of a nonfiction. This is a brand new book that is not on your list. And in case you haven't noticed, we are adding those to the chat as we go. This is called Share Your Rainbow. Artists draw their hopes for the future. We talked about in the very beginning, we all need a little comfort, we all need a little happiness, and this is a great way to do it. It says in Greek mythology, the rainbow was personified as a young goddess named Iris. She was usually depicted as having wings because she was swift as the wind, and she was a bridge between the heavens and earth, traveling from one world to the other. That rainbow of colors was a symbol of hope, even back then at the very dawn of civilization. So they asked all these amazing children's books illustrators, some of which we'll talk about today. Corinna Leakian is in here. Dan Santat did the cover story, and we'll talk about him again in a little bit. Laura Vaquero Seeger, we have some of her books with us today. Who else did I see in here? Molly Idle, Lane Smith. These are all incredible artists who take that idea of rainbow and in their own style are drawing the pictures. Again, there's a story that proceeds through the book, but what you really want to concentrate on is the different artistic styles. You take any one of these artists and kids could emulate their style. They could use the same materials. They could create their own idea of rainbows. This one is very collage oriented, so you could use a lot of paper. This one has block prints that you could either do with potatoes or apples, where you cut the shape out and kids could try a print, or you cut out geometric shapes they can put together. And again, you see the riot of colors, the way that kids are illustrated in all different ways, what the rainbow means to each one of them. And this is what they're all going to do when the rainbow comes. So your kids can also talk about the rainbow as sort of that metaphor for not only just a rainbow in the sky, but what are you going to do when things change or to make yourself happy? Well, we will hold hands as we walk and talk and listen and be together. Beautiful idea. So I loved everything about this book. Great introduction to art, great introduction to these artists, and then you could look at the other books they've made, give kids a chance to connect, and like I say, echo some of the art that they do. These next few books were some of the newest books to come to the library. And I will be pushing to all the library staff, Ronan the librarian, because you know we love a book that's about us. And in this particular book, Ronan happens to be a very mighty barbarian. Basically what he does is go around and raid and plunder. He gets gold, he raids, he invades, and back home he trades. But one day, Ronan's treasure turns out to be a box of books. What's he gonna do with those? Nobody makes a deal. Barbarians don't read. So he starts thinking about what he could do with them. Well, he could burn them. Oh, that one looks like toilet paper. That'll get him laughing. Origami. And it's a rhyming book. So he says, then a picture caught his eye. Ronan read the first sentence and then a paragraph and then a page. Before he knew it, he had devoured an entire chapter. He read until the moon was high in the sky. The next day, Ronan didn't meet the raiding party. He must have overslept, said Crone. Let's go wake him. Ronan, what are you doing? Asked Gunnar. I'm reading, Ronan said. This book is epic. Do you want to borrow it? Have you gone berserk? Barbarians don't read, we raid, said Helgi. His friends were right, so Ronan tucked the book away and went raiding like a good barbarian. But he couldn't stop thinking about the book. And when the raid was over, he charged home and read straight through to the end. Now you know that when you find that book that is magical, you can't get enough of it. And now, every time they raid, all Ronan does is try to see if there's any books there. He invaded and raided and read, and he's so busy reading, he's missing the raid. He's gone off the wrong direction. He invaded and raided and read, and now he's bringing the books home on the boat. The fierce raider became a fierce reader, and soon his massive collection threatened to devour him. So of course he decides to create a library, but it doesn't do any good because barbarians don't read. How could he get him to see the books were treasures? This is where it gets awesome. Oofta, I must conquer my own village, he declared. So he picked up his book, he held it high, and he began to read out loud. And you know, of course, when you begin to read out loud that everything stops and all the children listen and are tuned in, except, yeah, that's not really what happened. While he's reading, they're still wandering off doing other things. They're not paying much attention at all. It was a crushing defeat until the next day when Rona went to the library. And there they are all reading. Now they understand the power of story. Now they're looking for things that they care about. Now they're all over. So every day, I hope that you are reading out loud to your kids. Every day, I hope that you're giving them their chance to read. In these crazy times where there are so many things that kids can't control or understand, if we go back to some of the simplest, most basic things that engage children, that entertain them, and that help them enjoy what they're doing, books are the easiest way to do that. There's such a wonderful amount of different kinds that look different, that appeal to different kids. This is Madam, I believe it's Badobada, and she is a very interesting, eccentric lady that the young girl in this book meets. And this book is a perfect example of, it is a picture book and there is amazing art in there, but there is a lot of words and a lot of story. This might be the kind of story that you do read out loud to maybe get your reading time going, or to encourage kids to understand the ongoing plot of a story and talk about it. I still remember to this day in kindergarten, our teacher, if we got all our work done, because you know there's a lot of work to be done in kindergarten, she would read Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and she read it just by short chapters, so it took almost the whole year. And I still can see in my mind the dress that she was wearing and the kid in front of me, and the thrill that we would have more of that story to come. And nowadays, people think you got to have it all right away, you got to binge it really quick. But remember, they're kids. So connecting them to the magic of, do you remember what was happening yesterday? Let's see what's going on today. Or when somebody says, I'm going to stop now. And the groan and the moan gets them ready to hear more tomorrow. This is the old truck. And I have talked to some of you before about this trend of the much more muted palette, the design that I'm seeing. And this book seems to embody that so beautifully. The pictures are simple, yet really distinct. And at first, you don't have too many words here, so you have to talk about what's going on. For instance, this mom appears to be pregnant. Maybe this is dad carrying something to the barn. There's the truck. This is their farm. On a small farm, an old truck worked hard. And there, we now have the little girl is there. Everybody's working hard. The truck worked long. Truck grew weary and tired, so it rested. And as time passes, you see the truck is in the snow. The little girl is dreaming about the truck sailing through the ocean, braving the skies, even chasing the stars. And this truck, as the little girl is growing up, features in her dreams and her experience, even though the truck is now sitting still and unused. And as time goes by, the girl continues to get bigger. We see her here fixing the tractor, which I love, because that's sort of an atypical thing for girl characters to be doing in the book. She's working with her dad, now she's working on her own. The weeds are growing up around the truck. It's so old, it's covered over in the snow and the weeds. Eventually, the new girl is the girl becomes the farmer, and she works long and she works hard, and then she grows weary and tired. But she dreamed and persisted, and then vroom, and she has brought the truck back to life with her incredible skills. The story is amazing, the art is amazing, The author and the illustrator are brothers, and they're reflecting their heritage of strong, amazing farm women, their grandmother and their mother, who they thought could do anything, fix anything. So their experience translates to this beautiful book. And now, it is Cat, Dog, Dog. So Cat, Dog, Dog has very few words, but the meaning is super clear. And if you're a dog lover, like most of us are, this book made us laugh and laugh. This is exactly how it goes. Because it starts out with the dog and his person. You notice the person has some boxes. This is dog, this is dog, this is dog. You see dog doing all the different wonderful things at his home with this person, where he loves his house. Then we see another person, and she has dog, cat. And dog, cat also have a wonderful home and an amazing relationship, where of course cat is the boss. There's cat and dog's bed. The only other word is hiss. Suddenly all those boxes are packed up and some of them say dog box. What could be happening? Well, the man and his dog seem to be moving in with the lady and her dog, cat. Dog, dog, cat. Everybody is happy and wonderful. They're all going to live happily ever after until they don't, because they don't get along. So it's dog, dog, cat, 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 dog, dog, cat. And then, yeah, this dog's laughing because that dog got in trouble while the cat is just smiling. We love everything about their expressions. If kids have pets, they will now need to tell you every single thing their dog or cat ever did and how their dog lays on the bed like that. And hey, let them, because nothing makes us happier than talking about our animals. And the only one there's not room for in a comfy bed is, of course, our original dog friend. One day, there's a scuffle outside the window. And if you have pets, you know that could be a literal, bear is coming along and they're barking to protect you, or it could be that a leaf blew by, or that it's sunny out, or nothing. And after they manage to jump through the open window, they have to think twice about that bad idea, because now they're all rich. I'm not going to show you the end, because just like I said, when I say we're going to end there and close the book, I hope that you check it out. It's very funny. I will tell you that just as things are looking up, there's a new arrival in the house. Karen's going to show you an activity that goes along with this book that may give it all away, but check it out. It's very funny. Very few words, lots of opportunities to talk and engage kids and think about all those ideas. I also want to reflect back for a minute. Karen talked about more purple people, and we have started to think about that idea of when you see someone at work, or for kids in the classroom or at daycare, you see somebody who is doing those things, laughing, learning, being themselves, using their own voice in a great way. The idea is you give somebody something. Maybe you give them a purple crayon. Maybe you have a chart in your room where people can put a purple dot or a purple star or a purple sticker when they see somebody being a purple person. You could use the I promise the same way. When you talk about the book, it gives kids all those promises. They could be their own promises for the day. They could be based on LeBron's promises for the day. So the idea is the book is the jumping off place for what you're doing in the classroom. Many of them can be enjoyed just on their own. And certainly kids should have a lot of time to read and explore books. But if you take those extension activities, then the idea that the book is conveying, or the information, imprints on the kid in a whole nother way. So we hope that you are using some of these activities and adjust them for how old your kids are. If you're using the Universe book, little kids may not get a lot of that measurement or talk, but you could take older kids on websites where they show what the Hubble telescope, which it mentions in here, is seeing that day, or the pictures that were captured by it. If you're reading Ronan the Librarian to little kids, it's a funny story, but they could act it out by stomping around and raiding and invading, and then settle down to their books afterwards. If it's older kids, you could actually talk about, what does this say about history? What does it mean that they sailed around invading? So the book hopefully becomes not only wonderful in and of itself, but it is the jumping off place for amazing things to happen. I'm going to turn this back over to Karen for a few enrichment activities, extension activities. Then we'll have another break, and then we'll be back for our third round of books. Thanks so much.
Hi, everybody. Wasn't that amazing? Sherry is such a wonderful, wonderful book talk. She always inspired me. Well, I'm going to start with what she left off with, the dog, dog, cat, cat, and I'm going to let off the secret. Here are some nice little puppets. If anybody would like them, just let us know on the Zoom. Dog, dog, cat, and you know what the new arrival was? Baby. Couldn't resist that.
Dramatic play.
Dramatic play. Hours of fun. After you read the story, you just make a couple of copies of these, have enough for 3 or 4 kids. They will entertain themselves for a mighty long time. It's always fun. Sherry talked about the bag and the heart, and you all will be getting a bag with your giveaway because I have prizes I'll tell you about later, so stay tuned. Bag. And here is the nature box that we put together. And these were things that mainly we just had, Sherry had basically laying around. I had a few pumpkins. We got this from the library. It was, what is this stuff called? It's so fuzzy and nice. It's, you know.
Is it from the garden?
Yes, no, it's not from the garden. It's from the ditch
Oh.
right outside the library. But this is a box. If you put this in for teachers, you put this in your texture box,
Mm-hmm.
and hours of fun. Kids love playing with this kind of stuff. We also gathered up some leaves and scissors. A box of scissors, a box of leaves, lots of fun. And it really is. We tried cutting them. It really is fun. You get crunch. They cut really nice. Who doesn't love a pair of scissors and leaves? Also, I found a nature journal. And they can log whether they write or not. It's teaching pre-writing skills. And if they can write, they can log what they want, what they find out in the woods, in the nature. Also, we have a nature box. And these are just some things we printed out and went outside. Here's like a little map of things they're looking for. Right, scavenger hunt. And we got this little container, a carton, find the things, and this is what we found yesterday. We were just walking around the library. So those are some tie-in extension things that were simple, and all of those ideas came from Sherry reading stories to me and ideas coming up. So
We're gonna take one more break and
we're gonna take one more break and we'll be back
10:45.
10:45. Thanks.
Hi, everybody. So now we want to do a segment where I get to present some activities along with the books, which is one of my favorite things to do. I used to be, I worked out at the Ellis branch and would actually do programs with kids there. Now that I'm in outreach, I'm always out in the community somewhere. So I don't get a chance to do some of my favorite things, a lot of which are sensory activities where kids get to taste, touch, smell, feel things, or Montessori style activities where kids are actually practicing skills, a pincher grip, or a squeezing, or developing gross motor skills, fine motor skills. So I'm going to tell you about some books, and then I'm going to tell you about some great activities that go with them. And again, we're using that idea of simple, inexpensive, easy, using what you have around you. So I'm going to skip around on the book list a little bit, but I want to start with Antoinette Portis's A New Green Day. I think Portis is one of those authors that I have loved for a long time. She has other books, Now, Not a Stick. This New Green Day is brand new. So she was an author who's put out a new book, but her whole collection is fantastic. And in A New Green Day, it starts with, morning lays me on your pillow, an invitation, square and warm, come out and play, says sunlight. So each page has something that is being said by the creature or the thing on the next page. It would be a great prediction activity for kids. It goes through a lot of things in nature. I'm a chorus of a million tiny voices. Come splash in my song. What could it be? Anybody got a guess? Says the rain. One of my very favorites is the last one that says, I am the engine of the summer dark. Sleep while I thrum in your tomorrow. I had to look up what thrum meant. It's a vibrating sound, and who says it? The cricket. And a new green day is how it ends. So it's a great book to use with seasons. It'd be beautiful in the spring and summer. A lot of things reference that. As I say, Portis's book now has some beautiful fall imagery in it. Not a Stick talks about the stick is not just a stick. It is a saber and a building block and a pointer. But one of my all-time favorite Portis books is Not a Box. Now, if any of you out there are as old as I am, you know that a box is the way to a child's heart, that they can make it into a million things. It is dedicated to children everywhere sitting in cardboard boxes. Why are you sitting in a box? It's not a box, because this one's a car. And the whole book, of course, is that way. Not a box, because it's everything from a pirate ship to a hot air balloon to a way to ride the elephant to a tugboat. And you can talk about all the ideas in this book. You can explore them all. But one of the very best things you can do in your classroom or in your daycare setting is bring in some boxes. And the things that you can do with them are endless. So this is my stash here. They can be small, they can be medium size. You can cover them or not. Kids are not gonna care. You can provide materials to use with them or not. Kids are not gonna care. And you can start with a plan of what these boxes are gonna be, or you cannot, because the kids will come up with one. Also, I've got the giant box over here. If you need a giant box, by the way, go to an appliance store, ask them what day they tend to have them in the back, and they will either give you one or they will tell you what day they put them out, and they're yours for the taking. There was a time where when I was doing a sensory program at Ellis, we would go get those appliance boxes and just bring them in empty. Sometimes they had nothing with them. I just put them out and the kids would instantly gravitate to them and create whatever's ever in their imagination. Sometimes I give them just a few props that were in the room and they would bring them to the box. The box was a dog house one day with a bone and a bowl for the dog. It was an elevator one day and they drew on the inside of it the buttons to push going up and down. It was a ship, it was a car. It fell apart after that. You can, of course, like I say, cover it, paint it, cut out windows, put curtains in it, make yourself a house out of it, or you can give it over to kids and they will use it forever. If you have a smaller box to a medium size, you can cover them again, or you can leave them as is and use them as building blocks. Set them on top of each other. Let kids make a palace, a fort, the classroom, anything that they want to make out of them. They're great to knock over. They're easy and inexpensive. Any box will fit the plan. We have done awesome sensory feeling boxes. Take the box and cut some flaps for the kids to put their hands in. And what you put in there, sky's the limit. If you're doing a particular theme, say it's fall or seasonal, or you're doing nature walks, put a pine cone in there and a leaf and let them reach in and feel and see if they can guess what that is. If you are doing different textures, you want to have soft, you want to have smooth, you want to have rough, have them put their hand in and pull something out and say what it feels like to them. You can use a feeling box for colors, for events, for a chance to reach in and grab a prize, all kinds of things. Grown-ups, of course, are a little reluctant to stick their hand in there because it might feel weird or creepy, but kids will go for it every time. You can also use a larger box, cut out a space in it, and create a puppet theater, a puppet stage, or a TV screen, if that is something kids relate to more. Then, say they're doing the cat, dog, dramatic play, they would have a stage or a presentation where they could do it if they wanted to do it in a smaller space. You can make it as fancy or plain as you want to. We have a puppet show in one of our branches that actually has a beautiful curtain and a wonderful shelf, and it's very pretty. And the kids love it, and they use the puppets with it all the time. But we've also just cut a hole in a box and turned it over and told them it was a puppet theater, and it worked just as well for creative and dramatic play. All of these things cost you next to nothing because it's the boxes you already have or you get from someplace else. The props that you put with them could already be in your classroom or your home. The other thing that I want to mention is if you have a smaller box, cut some slots in it and put something inside it that you can cut. I have a big issue with kids do not get a chance to use scissors. And so in high school, we have volunteers that can't figure out how to cut out the name tags because they've not used scissors. And people want to say, oh, but they'll cut their hair, they'll cut their friends' hair. Tell them not to and give them opportunities to learn how to use scissors. It's a wonderful fine motor developer, and it also gives them a skill that they can use. So what you might have inside your box, for instance, is a ball of yarn, and they can just keep pulling and cutting and pulling and cutting. Some of those rolls of paper that you used to use in an adding machine, if you're old, or different office machinery, you can pull and cut and pull and cut and pull and cut. When Kieran showed you the box with the leaves in it, again, that idea of just being able to take your scissors and get used to that movement. It's not two hands and it's not your thumbs in the wrong place or your two fingers. It shows them how to use the tool, how to develop the skills, and you can use a box to make it an endless project as they pull and pull. So those are some great books by Cordis and some great box ideas. Now I want to move on to my favorite kids. So in the past, we have talked about the book Jabari Jumps. This is Jabari, and you may remember he's going to the top of the diving board. He's going to jump off. It's going to be amazing until he gets there. And he's none too sure about that. So it takes a while for him to get brave enough to dive in. This book is also a Vox book. Remember I told you about these, where they will read the book to the child or you will to you as you turn the pages and you see the words on the page. That connection between hearing the words and recognizing the word on the page is a fantastic pre-reading skill. So Jabari Jumps, we've talked about before and is on your list. This is the brand new Jabari Tries. This one is so new that I stole it from the place where we process the books, and I have to bring it back later today. But it'll be in the catalog soon. And again, we see Jabari. This time he is inventing. And he has such a good idea, and it's going to be so wonderful if his little sister would just stop bothering him. But when he tries his invention, it doesn't work. So he has to keep stopping to think about what could he do differently? What could he try next? And on this page, it says, he thought about how inventors have to use their creativity and how engineers and scientists work to solve problems. And illustrated here are some amazing non-traditional, because they're very diverse, scientists and engineers. For instance, Dr. Flossie Wong Stahl is an inventor who created several of the phone-related inventions that we use every day. I want to think about, I'm looking at who's on this page, and to be honest with you, I only knew a few. Karen and I had to look them up. But we found out they did amazing things. Roy Aleta, he has a nephew who is deaf, and he invented, get this, it is a glove that when deaf people who are signing use it for American Sign Language, it translates their sign language into a voice-activated computer. So they can talk to you through their hands, but you can hear it. That's an amazing invention. So when Jabari thinks about all those great inventors, he tries again. His process gets more complicated. Sister keeps wanting in and he's none too sure. And of course, in the end, he just needs a little help. And she's got a good idea. And they're ultimately successful. Not only is it a fun story, a great book, great illustrations, a jumping off place to talk about inventions, a great way to give your kids stuff and have them make their own invention. What a wonderful way to teach. Sometimes you got to keep going back and try and try and try till you get it right. And there's no harm in trying, and there should not be any sorrow in trying. It just means you got to think about it a little different way. When I thought about Jabari Jumps, it made me think of all the water connections that you can do. So I want to talk about a few amazing water ideas for activities. This is my sink or float box. If you've never done sink or float, you don't know what you're missing. It will keep your kids busy forever. because there's nothing kids like better than to mess around in water. You take a container, if they can see through it, all the better. Fill it half full, 3/4 full, whatever you're comfortable with, water, container you already have. And then you give kids an array of things that they are gonna drop in the water and see if they sink or float. You talk about sink means it's heavy, it weighs a lot and goes to the bottom. Float means it's light, it's on the top. And it is such an incredible way to bring science into your classroom through something that's so fun. The idea of kids get to predict which one will sink or float. Kids get to experiment by dropping it in. They get to chart the results, maybe which one sunk and which one float. Were they right or were they not? They evaluate what they thought. This is also a great activity. Even if you're remote or you're social distancing, you can say, Karen, do you think this will sink or float? Ashley, do you think this will sink or float? And you try it. And almost any parent is probably going to agree to create their own sink or float at home if all it takes is a container, some water, and a few things. So you drop the pumpkin, you drop the fern, you drop the paintbrush, a spoon. A rock is very interesting because if it's heavy enough, it'll sink, but if it's a small, tiny one, it might float. Magnets are very interesting. If you're, again, as old as I am, you know that apples float, and if you drop them in water, it creates a bob for apples situation that you might enjoy. So that's sink or float, and you can do it anytime, any season. When you have run out of ideas or you're just feeling like I need something today to keep them busy for a few minutes, get out the sink or float tub and other water games. One of the best purchases that I ever made was this little Tupperware kit that when you open it, you find all the classic Tupperware from 1970, whatever. And kids from, let's see, my oldest niece is now 40 to a young friend who is 7 have played with this for 25 years. You pour, you dump, you stir, you cook, you bake. You can use it with water. You can serve up your fake restaurant food on it. There is a baking mat, there's plates, there's cookie cutters, there's cups. It is endlessly entertaining for them. It's the perfect size. You might not find, and I think I found this at a garage sale. You might not find it at a garage sale or eBay, but you certainly can find some smaller size kid dishes. The most exciting thing is always when you let them actually put water in the pitcher and then pour it in the cups. If it spills, it's just water. It'll be okay. But that whole idea for them is about the playing and the fun, but you know they're starting to learn scientific concepts. They're learning the conservation of, I poured this in it and it didn't spill, but I poured this much and it did spill. They're learning different amounts of volume. It may not be a concept that they learn and grasp and can use right away, but they're starting to put that idea in their head that not all amounts of water are the same. Not all amounts of matter are the same. They don't weigh the same. They don't work the same way. So I love water transfer stuff. Another great idea is to use dissolving things in water. Choose a variety of spices, sugar, flour, anything that you can stir into the water. Is it going to dissolve or won't it? And again, they're just having fun, but you know they're starting to learn about different properties, heavy, light, things that will come apart, etc. So great ideas for water. And then last but not least, I want to talk about vamos, let's go to the market. Where off they go to the market. And Vamos, Let's Eat is also available right now in audio. We will be getting the print version soon. So for breakfast, little lobo and butter nabe ate huevos rancheros con tortillas de maíz and wash it down with warm milk. Now, I don't really know Spanish. I have enough words to read this book, but a great activity with this book is to talk about what are the Spanish words. Do you have Spanish speakers in your class? Do you have Spanish-speaking parents? Can people contribute that you know contribute to the idea of 2 different languages? Can you teach the kids some words in another language? Eventually, they end up at the market, which is very different than our small store. The market is huge and open air, and there is so much to look at on every page of this. I think that kids would spend hours with it. I have never been able to read it all the way through in a class because they stop me to talk about what they're seeing and what they're looking at and how many amazing things there are. So I always have to say, now you need to check it out from the library. If you take a book like this, Let's Go to the Market, or any other food book that you love, one of my favorites is Eating the Alphabet. It is a Lois Elliott book, and it gives you a fruit or vegetable for every single letter of the alphabet. Another favorite is Bread, Bread, Bread by Anne Morris. These two are not on your list. They're some of my favorite food books. You might have others. When you read the book, the extension activity almost writes itself. Bread, Bread, Bread talks about bread around the world. You could give kids a baguette, a tortilla, a pita. You could talk about the different kinds of breads that people eat all around the world. You could make bread. You could shake cream in a bag to make the butter for the bread. The ideas from this book alone will last you a whole month. Eating the alphabet makes that connection between letters and words to the actual thing that you eat. It's a wonderful pre-reading activity or letter practice activity where kids don't even know they're doing the work. They're getting a chance to see what a quince tastes like, what a gooseberry tastes like. So that's a cool idea. Certainly, if you have the Cheerios playbook is one of my favorite. Some people tend to use this only with really little kids, but this is a book you can use for a long time and take it with you places. Give them some Cheerios. There are pages in the book where you use the Cheerios. You can also string them on a pipe cleaner and bend them. You can string them on something stretchy and make jewelry out of them. That little bit of hand-eye coordination as well as the fine muscle skills, tremendous skill building activity. And I also want to talk about some actual useful activities. One of the ones that I just recently thought about, I know I can't find what I'm looking for, but I had a banana somewhere. Cut a banana. This is a pretend knife. It came with some play set. It is not sharp at all. Nobody can hurt themselves, but kids could use it to actually cut a knife. If you're lucky enough to have one of those cutting sets, like from Liz and Doug, where you cut the bread and you cut the vegetables, that's wonderful. But imagine the mastery of you cut your own banana and then you can eat it. If you are doing distance learning, kids might have a banana at home that they could use, and it doesn't have to be a pretend knife. You can cut a banana with a fork, with a spoon, with anything that gives you any pressure. This is a Winnie the Pooh spreader. You could cut with this, but you can also practice spreading. We make everything for kids instead of giving them a chance to try it with their food. And the more they prepare the food, the more interested they might be in eating it. So use it to spread the butter, to spread the jam, to spread the peanut butter, to try cutting things with. Last but not least, I want to mention as one of my favorite food activities in the fall is to do a taste test. I don't have all the different apples with me, but if you got a red one and a yellow one and a green one, you slice a little piece for each kid and let them taste them. And then you can create a chart where you mark which one they liked best. So all the things that they're learning in there is they're counting how many apples they are. They're understanding their different kinds. They're starting to evaluate different tastes and use that scent or sense. They're using their eyes, they're smelling, they're tasting. And then when you create these kinds of charts, they just see it as it's a yellow star or sticker or crayon mark because I like the yellow one best. But you are starting pre-math activities that give them a great jumping off place to begin to understand how you can organize information, how you can connect information. So those are just a few of the box, water, and food activities that I hope you all have a great time with. Last segment of the book talk are authors that have come out with new books that I love, but I love them so much because of all the books that they've written. So you'll see some connections on your list. First author I want to talk about is Laura Vaquero Seeger. She has made so many incredible books that focus on art and colors, green and blue. You can see the green book is every amazing color of green. Fern green, wacky green, slow green. So if you are working with youngsters on colors, if you are using colors as part of a conversation about art and bringing other colors into use and play, when you look at all the faded green, the glowing green, using this as a jumping off place to a scavenger hunt, beautiful to look at, wonderful to read. Blue is very much the same way. I hope she makes one for every color eventually. Maybe blue, very blue. There are some holes in this book, so you can preview or reflect on what happened before. Ocean blue, and we're looking through to see sky blue, blue of the sky, but also the blues in the balloon. Beautiful colors. Lemons Are Not Red is a book that I have used every time I have ever done anything with preschools for years and years, because lemons are not red. Nothing makes the kids happier than they get to yell a little, be a little irritated. So when you get to say, lemons are yellow, apples are red, in a very reasonable voice, and you say carrots are not
Purple.
purple. Thank you, Ashley. See, they love to show. Carrots are orange. Eggplants are purple. The more vehement you get, the more vehement they will get in their insistence that flamingos are not gray. Flamingos are
Pink.
pink. We have wonderful audience participation here. You can use this book over and over again, and it's the kind of thing where even if they've read it 100 times, they still can get irate about what's coming. And then you can compare and do all kinds of extension activities with things that are not their usual color, with predictions about what colors are. Or maybe you don't know what a flamingo is, so you need to go look at one to figure out what color it is. Laura Vaquero, Seeger, love her. Lane Smith, I think we referenced earlier today, his latest book is Tomorrow Most Likely. Words are by Dave Eggers, pictures are by Lane Smith. Lane both writes and illustrates books. Dave Eggers is also a wonderful author in his own right. And this is a book, when, again, thinking about that idea of classic, comforting, but comforting because it engages kids and helps them think and make sense of things, not just distracts them or entertains them. Tomorrow, most likely, there will be a sky, and the chances are it will be blue. There are more things that we can predict and be sure about, and be confident that it's most likely it will happen. Tomorrow, most likely, there will be a squirrel. Chances are his name is Stu. I like it. Tomorrow, most likely, there will be a meal. Chances are some of it will be brown. And tomorrow, most likely, there will be a door that leads to the world. Now, this book takes the child further and further out into the world, the sky, the people, the crazy things you might meet that don't rhyme. Tomorrow, most likely, you'll see a bright bug, or you'll smell the good smell of an unseen flower that you don't know the name of. So while there are unpredictable things happening in the book, the most likely things that will happen are things that kids can count on and predict. It would be wonderful to write a most likely story with your class or ask individual kids to do it. What things are most likely to happen in their life? This is A Perfect Day, a similar kind of feel, book by Lane Smith, and it talks about what a perfect day would be. The cool of the water was what Dog liked best, and when it was hot, Dog sat in the waiting pool. That's a perfect day for Dog. Birdseed. Bert topped off the bird feeder with it. Who do you think that's a perfect day for? Chickadee. Somebody was going to say bird, and of course we accept that, but in this case it's the chickadee. So everybody has elements to their perfect day, from the smallest creature to the biggest, and then kids can talk about what would be in their perfect day. The warmth of the sun, the cool of the water, a belly full of corn and seed, a flower bed for a nap. It was a perfect day for a bear. What's a perfect day for your classroom? What would it entail? Can you draw it? Can you write it? Can you chart it? Cool stuff. We have always loved penguin problems. If you look, there's one penguin who is different on this cover, so you can spend some time with that. This penguin has some real problems. It's too early. His beak is cold. They're all squawking. Snowed some more. It's too bright out here. There are so many problems. And eventually, one of his biggest problems is he looks the same as everybody else. But then he meets a wise old walrus who says, I sense that today has been difficult, but lo, look around you, penguin. Have you noticed the way the mountains are reflected in the ocean like a painting? Have you noticed, have you gazed, have you looked at, and points out so many things to be grateful and enjoy and love? Please think about those things. Now Mortimer says, who the heck was that guy? Why do strangers always talk to me? Walruses don't understand penguin problems. And I cannot tell you how many times I've had the conversation, even in the past few weeks, with parents of teenagers or middle schoolers or toddlers, where they say, why are they doing all this? They're doing it because they're penguins, because that's what penguins do, or toddlers do, or middle school kids do, or teenagers to do. And none of us can understand those kinds of problems because we're not penguins and toddlers and middle schoolers. So remember to put yourself in their shoes. And once again, Mortimer has to do that and think about things in a very different way. But in the end, his beak is still cold. So don't expect him to be grateful for everything you want them to be grateful for right off the bat. Maybe they're experiencing their own penguin problems. On to another great author. Let me find the right book. Kevin Henkes has been around forever and ever. If you're really old, you remember Lily's Plastic Purse, which is still a classic for a good reason. This is Kevin's new book, and it's called Sunflower Lion. The art in this book is so simple, and yet he has created so much with just a few colors and that basic design. Chapter 1, little kids love a book with chapters, makes them feel grown up. This is the sun. Can you see it? The sun is in the sky. It is shining. It is as bright as a flower. Chapter 2. This is a flower. And on we go to chapter 3. This is a lion. Can you see him? He's running up the hill. He's smelling the flower. He's basking in the sun. Chapter 4. The lion's adventures continue. Chapter 6. Now the lion is home. He's had his supper. He's asleep with his family. He is happy. Can you see him? Yes, you can. Kevin's books are so simple, yet so powerful. You may have read A Parade of Elephants. That's a book we're giving away today and we'll be sharing with you. I think we've talked about egg and other in-services, which is a very funny, repetitive word. Egg, 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 crack, 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 crack. Egg. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Egg. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. Egg. And eventually, they waiting. And what comes out of that egg after they peck at it and it begins to crack? Surprise! All the birds are frightened away. But that baby alligator is all alone and lonely. So the friends come back. You can see that it's very simple words. Kids could read it with you. They could talk through the story. They can't wait to tell you what's happening in the picture. And when I first encountered these Kevin's books, I thought they are too simple for older kids, but they love being able to predict and the calmness in the way that the book is delivered. I tend to read fast and loud, and a lot of time it's silly. But when I found this book, Waiting, which was my first beloved Kevin book, it went on, or my love grew from there. There were 5 of them and they were waiting. And I thought, who's gonna want to listen to a book about waiting? But it allowed me to calm my voice and say, the owl with the spots was waiting for the moon. The pig with the umbrella was waiting for the rain. The bear with the kite was waiting for the wind. And the puppy on the sled was waiting for the snow. The rabbit with the stars wasn't waiting for anything in particular. He just liked to look out the window and wait. And now our production team is feeling a little sleepy. They thought a waiting book was silly, but now they feel calm and comfortable. There are some pages with no words at all where you can talk about what's happening out the window. Is this what they've been waiting for? No, they're still just waiting. There's all kinds of different things happen. One day a new friend joins them. And now I'm going to close the book and you'll have to see what you think about them waiting. So those books are all on your book list as well. Now, if you have some older kids, or you have some kids that have, let's say, a sense of humor, and that sense of humor is a little twisted, you are gonna love Mac Barnett. Mac Barnett, to me, is the most diverse writer, illustrator, idea guy. His books are so different in terms of their subject matter, their art, who they appeal to. But once kids find this author, and probably they have to be a little older to get the humor. For instance, this is triangle, this is circle. Of course, there's a square. These are very simple books. where circle is talking to square about a sculpture, and in the end, there is always some trick played, and the books always end with a question. Is that really what happened? Did he really not know any better? Did he really mean what he said? They're really kind of subversive and a little bit dark. So little kids like them because they're about shapes and they seem kind of funny. Older kids really get the joke. One of the best books for the older kids, this is Sam and Dave Dig a Hole. This one's been around a while, so you may have seen it. Written by Mac Barnett, illustrated by John Klassen. This particular one is a box book, so it can be read to them. I'm only going to show you a little bit of this, but I'm going to tell you these pages that we usually skip over, the copyright page, make sure you look at them very closely. On Monday, Sam and Dave dug a hole. When should we stop digging? Asked Sam. We're on a mission, said Dave. We won't stop digging until we find something special. The hole got so deep that their heads were underground, but they still had not found anything special or spectacular. Now every kid is screaming, it's right there, it's right there, there's a diamond. We need to keep digging, said Dave. So they kept digging, and they dig right past what's spectacular. They can see that another one's coming. They're jumping out of their seats now. They can't stand that these guys are missing the spectacular. And the incredible amount of emotion kids will have behind this, it will surprise you. It blew me away. They're screaming, they're yelling, they're so frustrated. And you're thinking like, it's a book with two, all right. So, you know, they talk about what their problem is. Maybe the problem is they're digging straight down. Just as soon as they're about to hit the spectacular, they turn. Again, pay close attention to the detail because the dog is still digging. So they decide they should split up, and they do. Now I'm going to close the book now, and you're going to have to go check it out for the rest of it. It gets equally as frustrating, and in the end, make sure that you look at the last pages very carefully. Think about what I told you about looking at the first pages. See what your kids will come up with, because this book makes you have to think about what just happened. He also has simpler books that are just as funny and the audience can participate with. This is Noisy Night, and you want to note the wallpaper in the back, because what is going la 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 above my head? Kids can guess, but of course it's a man singing opera above my head. Now the operator sings, what is going mama, mama above my head? Notice the wallpaper is changing. We are going up the apartment because they're in floors. I can't, and it is a baby who's cooing above my head. I can't tell you how many times I had to stop with this book and explain to kids about floors of apartments. Because if you live in a house, you don't know what that is. If you live in a mobile home, you don't know what that is. So we had to talk about apartment complexes where there are lots of people in apartments on top of each other. And luckily, he shows you that on the front. So the kids always at the end of this book want to go back and do it again, because now they get the noises and the sounds and how they want to predict. So a lot of fun there. I think How This Book Was Made is on your list. Love this one because it's all about a ridiculous theory of how books are made. This is The Wolf, the Duck, and the Mouse, which is again a Barnett-Klassen cooperative effort and has that dark edge to it. Read it to yourself first and decide what audience you want to read it with, because this story is about a mouse and how he got swallowed up by a wolf and who he met down in the wolf's belly, what happened after that. Because it's not enough that he got ate. Once he got in there, there of course is a duck. And the duck thinks it's pretty sweet down there in the wolf's belly, but the mouse is determined to get out. And now the wolf is feeling funky because the mouse and the duck have a lot going on down there in his belly. For instance, they're having a banquet. Those simple colors that Klassen uses, like gray, brown, maybe a hint of red or green sometimes, make it so intriguing for the kids. This is another book that the kids will be shouting at. Don't be one of those book readers who's like, everyone must be completely quiet or I cannot continue the story. When they're that engaged that they're shouting out about the book, that means they want to talk about it and they're into it and they're connected. So take a minute and let them say what's on their mind. Let everybody say, oh, it's driving me nuts. You have time and you'll get to it. and they won't lose track of the story. They'll just invest even more in it. If you have readers that are a little bit older, Barnett also has this series, the Jack series. This is Jack Goes West, Jack at the Zoo, Jack at Bat. They are fantastic early readers or beginning readers because the words are simple, but they have, again, that little bit of twistedness to them. So this is Jack, #1, Game Day. It's the ladies are playing the big city brats. Right there, you got old ladies and brats. Let's root for the ladies, not for the brats. That lady will pitch. Rex plays the field. Jack is the bat boy and picks up the bats. Don't swing that bat, Jack. Jack, drop that bat. Good. Now pick it back up. That's what you do, Jack. You pick up the bats. Play ball, cries the ump. Let's beat the brats. Chapter 2, an hour goes by. The bases are loaded. The brats are at bat. The lady throws a fastball. A brat bashes it back. A big hit to left field, and Rex runs after it. Good, Rex. Fetch that ball, Rex. Yes, fetch it, Rex. Oh, no. Rex runs the wrong way. And if you have a dog, you know that's exactly what's going to happen. So they are silly. They set up different situations. This is the big game. Jack Goes West. Of course, there's a lady on the train and a villain at the Dude Ranch. This is Jack at the Zoo. There's a bad mix-up, and Jack gets stuck at the zoo. So sometimes when you give beginning readers to kids, the 1, 2, 3 or the ABC, what we call ABC books, they feel a little too juvenile for kids, especially if they're reading above grade level and if they're struggling. They feel like you're giving them something too easy. This is a fantastic easy reader in disguise. So I put those on the list. And one of the last in-services that we did, I talked about Just Because. It's a Mac Barnett book that is completely different than all the rest. It has a different illustrator, and it's about a kid who is going to bed. She's in bed. Her grown-up's about to leave when she says, "Oh, why is the ocean blue?" Grown-up says, "Every night when you go to sleep, the fish take out guitars. They sing sad songs and they cry blue tears. Because you're the grown-up and you can convince them that that's why the ocean's blue." "Well, what is the rain?" says the little girl. And you know this routine. Every time you want to leave the room, there is another question. And it doesn't matter what you say to the question, because the whole point is to keep you engaged. So his explanation or answer to the question gets more and more bizarre. Why do birds fly south for the winter? Well, to fetch new leaves for the trees, of course. So the plan of the little girl is to get the grown-up to engage with her. Here he is back all the way in the room, sitting on the bed talking. It doesn't matter what is being asked or what is being answered, because what is a volcano? How do you tame a horse? Why do you sneeze? How tall is the tallest mountain? This is the stage that kids get to where you're like, who taught them how to talk? Who told them asking questions was a good idea? But you can come up with any answer you want because it's the connection they're looking for. They'll eventually get the information. My nieces learned early on that if I was the one who put them to bed, if they asked any question that would get me telling a story, they had another half hour of somebody in there. And in the end, she says, why do we have to sleep? Because there are some things we can only see with our eyes closed. All of you close your eyes now. Think about something amazing. I have one last book that I want to share with you that kind of wraps up the idea of classics. You may have heard of a story called The Little Engine That Could. When I saw this book come across my desk as a new book, I thought, really? We got to review that story. But when I looked at it again and looked at it kind of with fresh eyes, I thought about what an amazing tale for today's world, where you're being asked to attend a picture book in-service on Zoom, where I'm being asked to talk to a camera instead of all of you in the room with me, and I don't even get to know if I'm making you cry this time, because I always like to make you cry with at least one book. Kids are being asked to stay distant from their friends, to not visit their grandparents. Friends and neighbors are being asked to find a way to get along even if their opinion about all the stuff that's happening around us are very different. It's an incredibly complex time where we're having to learn new skills, new relationships, new ways of doing things, and we're supposed to be calm and pleasant and friendly during it all. So the idea of the engine breaks down and a big engine comes by and won't help, and another big engine comes by and won't help. Finally, the little engine comes by and says, well, I'll give it a try, and repeats to himself over and over again, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can, is a wonderful metaphor for all the stuff that we're facing. Today we said, we think we can do it, and we hope we did a pretty good job. I also want to say that when I opened the book, I saw a little foreword by Dolly Parton. This falls under the idea of always read the beginning and the end pages of the book. You'll find out something amazing. Dolly Parton is a very famous singer, but she also created the Imagination Library. She began it in her small town and has now reached millions of children, where Dolly's Imagination Foundation sends a new picture book to a child every month for their first 5 years. So that when that child turns 5, they have their own library of 60 amazing, beautiful, valuable picture books. Millions of kids have participated in this program. I think in our county, it is administered by the Community Foundation, so you can get information there. And she talks about on this first page, when she first started this program, they talked a long time about what books should they use to send out first. They wanted to make a big splash. They wanted to connect people. They wanted it to be great. And Dolly's feeling was she always knew that it would be the little engine that could. When she grew up, her family didn't have much of anything, and they talked a lot about what they didn't have or they couldn't do. I said that wrong. They didn't talk much about what they didn't have or they couldn't do. The emphasis was always on what do we have and what can we do with it. And that idea of I think I can, that she learned from a story her mother told her when she was young because they didn't have books, stuck with her and became her mantra as she accomplished all the things in her world. So that was the first book that they sent out and why they asked her to write the foreword. This book is, this new version, it's the 90th anniversary of The Little Engine That Could. Is illustrated by Dan Santamp. We talked about him before in the art book. And in the end, he wrote the message that I think is so amazing. And you know, if you're crying at home, be sure and chat with me. So that I think I can. The simple mantra, which has lasted 90 years, has taught multiple generations of children and adults everywhere that they can possibly achieve something if they just believe in themselves. I remember my first time reading The Little Engine That Could in preschool. There was a hopeful optimism to the story that my impressionable young mind could relate to. It was a lesson in self-confidence. And as I grew older, I would occasionally say, I think I can, to myself, in jest while preparing for a big test in high school or later in college. And usually I had positive results. Me, an adult male, repeating 4 little words from a children's story about a tiny engine that no one believed in except for a handful of toys, and herself chanting, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. It's the voice in your head that gives you permission to believe in yourself when no one else does. A quiet place in your mind where no one can contest your beliefs. The meter of that phrase is balanced, meditative, and even calming. You become hypnotized by the rhythm of the phrase, which feels almost as natural as breathing. It's when you are at your best. And over the years, I realized that if you say something often enough, you can sometimes convince yourself that it can be done. Today, I still say it to myself before presenting to hundreds of children at schools all over the country or in the midst of a meeting or a tight deadline. It doesn't take much to lift a person's spirits and make us believe that we can all possibly become more than we ever dreamed. And it's all thanks to a little blue train. So I made myself cry. That's The Little Engine That Could. I want to end with that book today. I hope that everything you saw here today, you think about, I think I can. You can bring more books to your kids because you can get them free from the library. You can share more books with your kids because they can be wiped off or they can go home and be safe with them there. You can connect kids to books through the activities that you use to extend the idea of the story. You can present simple, inexpensive things that give your kids wonderful experiences without spending a lot of money, and you can do it remotely if need be. The last couple of things that I wanted to mention that we had forgotten about when we were talking about water ideas. I have here some plastic food. Use the food, use the dishes, and let them wash it. They're supposed to be washing their hands all the time, which seems like a chore and hard to do. But if your turn is up to wash the dishes, they will do it all day long. They will wash the fruit, they will wash the cup, they will wash anything, their toys. Take water out to the sidewalk and wash it down. Use paintbrushes. That water flowing over everything is fun. It only becomes the chore when you say it's just about hand washing. So let them get wet. The other thing is, Karen created this fantastic celebratory rice. This is just colored rice. You could scent it, you can put it in a bag, or you can use it on a tray. And the idea is, this might be a food activity, this might be an art activity, but you use it for writing practice. You could ask kids, and you can do this with a crayon, a pencil, the end of a paintbrush, whatever. They create the letter in the bag. It could even be fingers. They can make an A, they can make a B, they can move the rice and flatten it and see if they change it into a chunk. Does that work better or worse? The ideas that you can generate around a simple bag of rice, either in the classroom, everybody has their own, or virtually they go home with kids, you will be amazed. And you can even tape it shut if you really want to keep it sealed up. The multiples of things that you can do with the smallest simple materials that you have at home. I found my banana, I'm gonna go eat it. I'm gonna throw this back to Karen one last time. She's gonna give you some final information about the library and wrap it up. Thank you all for coming this morning and for listening in. Let us know if you have any questions.
I want to thank you guys for showing up and spending your Saturday morning here with us. We've had a lot of fun. Sherry is an amazing book talk. I could listen to her talk all day, all night, and she enjoys doing it. And you can tell, it's just, I just love it, okay? And I have some giveaways. There's 17 of you who are the lucky winners of bags of books. You will be notified where you can pick them up. I think you'll have to come to Bedford to get the books, your bag of goodies, or Dorsch. If you let us know what is a closer location, there's 16 branches, we will send your gift to the branch you want to pick up at. Also, we offer readers advisory for teachers who are doing programs, moms and dads who want books. We will pick out the books for you and have them waiting for you at the library. Also, Sherry was telling us about box books, but there's a little earbud phone, and then you can, sometimes you don't want to hear the book or you're trying to read another book, and the child can listen to the books by using earbuds, putting them in the side. That was something we forgot to tell you about. You have your application in your email, fill it out, and we will make sure that you get your card ASAP. You can use your last hour to browse our catalog. If you have any questions, we will be here to answer them, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.